I wanted to introduce this afternoon's session, and thanks for coming back, and I hope that you're finding it as interesting as we are. What we thought we'd do this afternoon is to just break away completely from through and ask three different people from three councils, not all of them in the southwest, just to talk about their experiences, the two or three things that they're really proud of in their parish or town council. So we've got David Garwood from Bradford-on-Avon, which is just down the road, Ron Simpson from Uppingham, and Mark Williams from Falmouth. So those are the three speakers. They've got somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes each, and then we can take a few questions.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Then we can take some questions afterwards. So I think David's first.
Make my way through the contributors. Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to be here with you all. I've had a very interesting morning. I'm the Mayor of Bradford-on-Avon. I don't know quite how I got there, but I thought I might actually take you through a little bit of the journey that we had with Ideal Bradford. We had quite a bit of success at last May's election. I was going to say we kicked arse, but I thought that'd be rude, so I won't say that. Where did we come from? Really, the journey started with a bit of a visionary in town, a chap called Dom Newton. Some of you may know him. Dom was very disillusioned with the existing town council. He held a very public meeting where he set out his vision for what Bradford-on-Avon could be. Within the audience there were a few people who'd read some book called Flat Pack Democracy. I don't know where that came from. And Dom was basically saying, look, I want to go for this and I'm looking for candidates. And cutting a long story short, 10 very unconnected people, didn't know one another at all, actually stood. It was an interesting sort of mix. We had 8 of the 10 who stood had no council or political experience whatsoever. We had 2 councillors, the existing councillors who came with us. A much younger makeup of the council. I don't include myself in that. But we do have, and we effectively self-selected. We have 12 seats on Bradford-on-Avon Council. We put up our 10 candidates and all 10 got elected, much to the shock, I think, of certain political parties. So we're all independents, but we stand under the banner of Ideal Bradford. How did we achieve that success? I think it was as a mixture of 2 things. One was the fact that the town was, frankly, disillusioned with the existing council. It was a lot of infighting, a lot of all split down political lines on the Westminster model. And I think also that was coupled, we were very fortunate in that we had a lot of professional skills with us, including PR, marketing, video skills, blogging and such like, all of which were put to good use. And I think those effective communications were the thing which really rolled us over. So we've been in power, as it were, for a year now. We went through an interesting process. It's something I know there are 1 or 2 management consultants in the room. I was a business consultant myself, and you will appreciate a model which was put forward by a chap called Bruce Tuckman. It's all about team development and group development and things like that. And it basically boils down into 4 things. It starts with forming, when you come together and you're all a bit nervous and you shake hands and wonder what's going to happen. Storming, which is when you begin to realise what the job is and you don't agree with people's approach and so on and so forth. Our storming process went on a bit longer than I would have hoped, but then you end up with norming, when you're now working, you're beginning to realise what the job actually is. And finally you get to performing, and that's where we are now. We are actually getting things done. Just to mention some of our achievements, one of the things which struck us when we came in was the amount of councillor time that was spent on what effectively we would call non-productive activities. We have an awful lot of social groups and such like, but councillors were going out to those groups, spending hours sitting on them and were really not producing anything. So we have changed the way we work with those groups now. They come into us, we encourage them to come into us. We appoint some as non-councillor members, And we also, with the larger organisations, we make them consultees. They don't have voting rights, but they do come in and give us words of wisdom. So we hope that's making a better use of councillor time. We've improved the way in which we give out grants. It seems to me that last time round, if you turned up and asked for 500 quid, providing you had a reasonably good reason, you got your 500 quid and that was the last of it. We now expect people to come to us and make a formal application. We encourage members of the public to come up with good ideas for the improvement of the town. What then happens is they complete their form, then a councillor will work with them and will complete another form which effectively says to colleagues, this fits in with what we're trying to do. So we really think, we should move with this. And finally, we even follow up and say, well, we gave you some money, what did you do with it? Which is quite important. And if they've not spent all of it, then we expect them to hand back, what was what. And that's gone down well. People see that and they work with it. And we've got a lot of applications that have come our way from individuals in particular. We've got good ideas, which we're happy to support. We have developed what I consider to be a very adventurous youth strategy, which is now in place. We're bringing in a new set of youth service providers. We're working on a business strategy with what is used to be called the Chamber of Commerce, now called BOA Business, as well as some experts from some of our larger companies in town. We're working on a tourism strategy. Bradford-on-Avon has long lost its industrial past. We rely on tourism for our income. So we're looking to develop that as best we can. And finally, one of my fellow councillors has also embarked on a dementia-friendly status for the town. So we're educating shops, businesses generally, schools, councillors, and so on and so forth. And that's proving incredibly successful. So that's just a brief walk through where we came from, where we've got to, and I'm happy to take some questions a bit later in the session. Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone, I'm Ron Simpson. I am the compulsory Geordie. I'm not here because I've got a lot of interesting things to say. It's now a European law, not well known, that you must have a Geordie on every public presentation. The other thing I've learned over the years is people read rather than listen, so I'm going to put 2 or 3 slides up, but actually not say a lot to them. If you want to know more about it, but hopefully they're fairly self-explanatory. That's one of our public meetings, the forum. Okay, so what's the fun? Uppingham became known partly because of its neighbourhood plan. We are the people who took the developers to the High Court and won. So I get lots of calls from around the UK now about, tell me more about that. But for quite a long time we've been involved in competitions of one kind or another. I learned quite at a young age, the trick to get free publicity is to enter competitions. Even if you don't win, if you get shortlisted, you get free publicity and so on. So we spend a lot of time doing this sort of thing. If we had more time, we've got a live webcam in the square. That's the snapshot you would get. It's actually a miserable, foggy day today in Uppingham, so not much point in taking it there. But the tell at the back's important. A local guy spent £2 million on that, refurbishing it, owning it, and that's where we meet a lot. Not the council, but the community, which I'll explain in a moment. So, yes, from my point of view, I'm a town councillor. I'm also chair of the business forum in town, and I'm somebody who got involved as mayor 10 years ago, getting a thing called the neighbourhood forum going. Our mayor's at the bottom there. That's our Women in the High Street group meeting on the right there. And like many parishes, we've got all the usual players, but I guess we've been quite active in engaging business in our case. Uppingham First is simply a company that was created to promote the town. You've heard all this morning how difficult it is to do some things. I learned again, you need the best lawyers you can afford, and it's for this reason I always say, I am not speaking for the town council, I am speaking as a citizen of Uppingham. That protects me in the event if anybody goes back to the town council and says, Ron Simpson said X, and somebody doesn't agree. But the other thing we did was, being an ex-local government officer, 40 odd years served, local government talks a lot, but sometimes doesn't do a lot. So Uppingham First deliberately has a majority of one business vote. So if ever there's too much talking, we say, look, let's just do something. And that's why. But we've carefully made sure that town and county councils are woven into the board structure. So there's actually a high degree of correlation between the organisations. Lots of projects gone on the last few years, some better known than others. The hopper bus is a fantastic thing, running around the town, all volunteers. We're a small town, small budget, most work's done by volunteers. Only got a clerk, just agreed to appoint a deputy with him, but very few staff, lots and lots of volunteers. But we get a lot done, and things like the 1 gigabit fibre broadband is actually quite a big deal. Changes your life once you get fibre to the premise. Don't let BT tell you otherwise. You must get fibre to the premise. Transforms your life. So 3 things. I guess I'm getting a lot of advice to speak. It's about the fact that we do work as a partnership. So we've said, hang on. Yes, the town council's elected, democratically last time, very good. But we've also got an elected neighbourhood forum, so we elect citizens to speak, and they can speak. They meet in a hotel, they have a glass of wine when they discuss things, which you can't do in the town council very easily, and we meet in a hotel. So we've deliberately created an elected community structure and an elected business structure. Our Chamber of Commerce collapsed years ago, but we've got a very vibrant high street, so we simply created an elected business forum. Those 3 elected structures get together in the board of Uppingham First, and we've even now created a vanguard board, as the civil servants asked us to call it, which is where the developers, the chairs of school governors, and the other people who otherwise wouldn't be involved come together about twice a year. We get all of the players together and say where we're going, where we've got to, what next. Secondly, the future is virtual, I'm afraid, friends, so we've just managed to put the physical world right if we're really lucky. But Uppingham has, it goes in next week, actually a 50,000 bid in for leader funding to create a very high-tech portal which will recognise which country you're calling from and speak to you in appropriate language. It'll give you a visual welcome to Uppingham, and then it will say why are you visiting, and it'll then direct you to whether it's the town council websites, business websites, or whatever. Big job if we can pull it off. But did you realise 20% or more of searches now are verbal? So we've all designed websites for people tapping on the keyboard, but in future the pensioners of tomorrow will say, I'd like to talk to the town council. So you need to redesign, and hopefully we'll design the portal so it's voice-led. How many people have got Alexa at the moment or something similar in the house? Okay, interesting. Okay, so our ambition is somebody will just speak to Alexa or its modern equivalent, and they will be connected to where they want to be. Or wherever, yes. And I guess that the reason that the local enterprise partnership says we're one of 2 towns in the East Midlands that's got a sort of very progressive agenda is that, yes, we have all these outrageous ambitions to allow the public to participate online. Many organisations already do it. It's only those rules that say you can't do it. Who's waiting around the corner to punish you? Not many folk. External auditor if it's financial, so we'll make sure you're on the right side. The irony is there's very little waiting to punish you if you do adapt the rules. So I would like to think everything we do is legal, but we do it in a way that gets things done. And we have this ambition. I've been involved in things like money. So if you take the community back here, why haven't the parish councils together created a banking system? I'm often puzzled. If you go to America, you buy a car, you get your mortgage from the corner of every mile. Why haven't we stepped in? Because I've got 300 people over 80 in town, many of them on state pension. We could create a credit union tomorrow. And I'm proud to be a member of a national credit union. That's where all my money is. 2.1% we just agreed to pay on our accounts. That's better than many a bank. And it's tax-free, by the way, because credit union deposits are not taxed. You may be, but the credit union isn't. So we've managed to push a lot of this into the town council. It's fair to say that 2/3 of the town council are progressive. I'll use the word carefully. 1/3 are, they put obstacles like vehicles in my way and so on. But we're going in the right direction, and we've got a very good clerk now. We've strengthened the staffing. The town council are getting an idea. But how about abolishing the precept? We already earn a third of our revenue from earned income. Wouldn't we have more respect from business if we did? Is it possible? Some people think it isn't. But depending upon what assets you've got, it may be. Why not become a social enterprise within the law? So we spent a lot of time harassing civil servants and others, saying, look, these rules stop us doing anything. Would you believe the mayor isn't allowed to be a company director of Uppingham First? Because now lawyers are saying we're uncomfortable with councillors being company directors. The reason we created the company is to actually be able to do things. Why do we not make a company into the country? So there's lots of in a cat trying to do in our me now. Spend which is still within the law. And you know, if I want to wine and dine a bank, I used to go to banks. I've spent a little time walking around. We lost all but one bank. I want to wine and dine bankers, persuade them to come back. That's the way, sadly, business is still done. It is in Brussels. I spend some time. As a company director, it's routine. I have a glass of wine and buy them lunch. The decisions made over lunch. Don't make the mistake of thinking decisions are made in formal meetings. Very rarely are they really. They're made elsewhere. And what we're trying to do as a community, you know, when we look at creating our own energy, we're into electric cars and various other things, we're just trying to find ways to do things lawfully, in a more business-like way. And if we can do it without my 80-year-old pensioners, then I think that's rather good. Happy to answer questions later. Thank you, Mel, for the invite. Sorry, thank you.